Hello class, we will be discussing about this important topic about research and hospitality. And we're going to talk about the understanding sample techniques in research. And the subtitle of this is ensuring representativeness and validity. So we can see or observe the sample technique in the research methodology part. So it is important that we need to understand this one because this is also one of the important part of the proposal. Okay, so once again I welcome everyone in this online lecture on sampling techniques in research. And again, sampling is a crucial aspect of research methodology and also determining the reliability and validity of your study outcomes. So in this session we will discuss into the significance of sampling and also various sampling techniques and factors influencing their selection. So first I'm going to talk about the importance of sampling. So sampling involves selecting a subset of individuals or items from a larger population to represent it accurately. So you are now in research 1 for the proposal. So instead of distributing the um, questionnaire to all the population, we need to only have this sample, okay, sample population or sample respondents. For example, you are going to study the all employees in a certain resort. So for example, they have this 5,000 employees, so it will consume your time and also your finances. So instead of asking questions to the 5,000 employees, you need only to have sample. Okay, so sampling involves again selecting a subset of individuals or items from a larger population to represent it accurately. So instead of having this 5,000 respondents, you need to have only, for example, 100 respondents. That will represent the 5,000, or we call it larger population. Next, it allows researchers to draw a conclusions about the population without studying every single member and making research more feasible and cost effective. As I have discussed, instead of studying the 5,000 employees, we will only study 100 employees that will represent the 5,000. So it will become more feasible and at the same time cost effective. Next, the importance of sampling is this proper sampling ensures the generalizability and validity of research findings. So uh, we need to use the proper sampling techniques to validate our research findings. Next, I'm going to discuss about the types of sampling techniques. So first, we have this random sampling. So every member of the population, for example, the 5,000 employees in the certain resorts, has an equal chance of being selected. Okay, so you are going to use the word or the term random sampling if every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. And also techniques includes there's also other or under this some random sampling we have simple random sampling, we also have systematic random sampling and stratified random sampling. Okay, so I think I need to write here. First is simple random sampling, we also have systematic, so I'm not going to discuss each of these different types of random sampling because we only have a limited time. So I give you an assignment to search in the Google what's the difference between simple, systematic, and stratified. So that when you put this in your manuscript, you have this accurate use of the sample technique, stratified. So again, under the random sampling, we have simple random sampling, we have systematic random sampling, and stratified random sampling. So consider the gold standards in sampling methodology. It minimizes bias and ensures each members of the population has an equal chance of inclusion. So for example, all the 5,000 employees, they have this equal chance of being included in the study. And also randomization, this kind of techniques help eliminate systematic errors. The third one is non-random sampling. Okay, so non-random sampling, it involves non-random selection of participants. So you're not using a random sampling because it comes from the word non-random sampling. Also, this technique includes convenience sampling, purposive sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. Again, I will not discuss each one of these non-random sampling. I give you an assignment to search it in the Google and find out among the simple, systematic, stratified random sampling and other non-random sampling like convenience sampling, purposive sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. You need to search this in Google and you need to use the right term for your study. Okay? Convenience, like the convenience store. Okay? Convenience. We also have purposive from the word purpose. Okay? I'll just write the acronym here. And also snowball. Snowball. Okay, so under random sampling, we have simple random sampling, we have systematic random sampling, and stratified random sampling. Under the non-random sampling, we have this convenience sampling, we have purposive sampling, and we also have snowball sampling. And I forget one. This is called quota. Okay, quota sampling. Okay, so it is often employed when random sampling is impractical or impossible. Okay, instead of using the simple, systematic, and stratified random sampling, if you observe that it is not advisable to use the random sampling, you will move on to the non-random sampling. It's either convenience sampling, purposive, snowball, or quota sampling. So while it may be less rigorous, it can still provide valuable insights depending on the research objectives. So you need to check your objectives. Or in the thesis, this is the statement of the problem. So you need to align the objectives or SOP to your sampling techniques. And again, examples includes of this one is convenience sampling where participants this one convenience sampling, it is where the participants are chosen based on the accessibility, okay, based on the convenience of the researcher. Next one, we also have purposive sampling where specific criteria guide participants selection. So you have to purposely select your respondents. Not like in the simple, systematic, and stratified random sampling, in which everyone has a chance to be included in the study. But in the purposive sampling, the researcher is purposely select who will be the respondents of his study. Okay, so on and so forth for the convenience, purposive, snowball, and quota. So just search this in the internet to increase your knowledge about these different kinds of sampling techniques. So for our online discussion, I will just make it shortened, and I give you a task to search in the internet on these different sampling techniques. Okay. And then the third one is mixed sampling, mixture of random sampling and mixture of non-random sampling. So it combines elements of both random and non-random sampling. And it is useful in certain research scenarios where a diverse range of participants is required. So some of your study also you are going to use random sampling, and the other respondents also use the non-random sampling. Okay, so for example, you have two kinds of respondents: the employees who are working in the lower rank or lower position. Okay, everyone in the lower position as an employee have the privilege to be part of the study. How about you also have respondents coming from the supervisory position? So you're going to use purposive sampling. It means that in your research methodology, if you have two kinds of respondents, the lower level position of employees and the higher rank position like supervisor or managers, so you are using the mixed sampling technique. Okay, so one of the advantage of using the mixed sampling techniques, it offers flexibility by combining elements of both random and non-random sampling. Also, it is useful in studies where certain subgroups need to be represented more accurately than others. And also, researchers must carefully balance the advantages and disadvantages of each approach to ensure the reliability of results. So again, the random sampling, non-random sampling, and mixed sampling have an advantage and disadvantage. So you need to study your objectives of your study so that you have this alignment of the sample techniques that you are going to use in your study. Now let's proceed to the factors influencing sample technique selection. So what are the factors that will help you to decide what sample techniques that you need to select or use? The first one is the population size. Population size of your study. This is the respondents, okay? Or people within the research environment. So larger populations may require different sampling techniques than a smaller ones, okay? For example, you will only study the employees within a certain establishment that has the small size of employees. So you need to use different sampling techniques compared to the five-star hotel or resorts. So one of the factors that influence the selection of sampling techniques is the population size. Next one is research objectives. So each study have the different objectives or statement of the problems. So the goals of the study dictate the most appropriate sampling method that you're going to use in your study. The third one is the available resources. So you need to consider also your time, your budget, and logistical constraints influence sampling decisions. Okay, you need to also consider your resources, your time, and your budget or finances. The fourth one is the accessibility of population. So some populations may be difficult to reach. That is why it is also affected the choice of our sampling techniques. So you need to consider these four factors: population size, research objectives, available resources, and accessibility of population before you decide your sampling technique that you're going to use in your study. Again, these sampling techniques can be found in your research methodology. Next, we need also to discuss the considerations for effective sampling. So I'll give to you four considerations for effective sampling. The first one is representativeness. So it ensures the sample accurately reflects the characteristics of the population, the whole population of your respondents or people within the research environment. So this is we need to consider also on this one, representativeness, that the sample respondents or sample individuals will represents the totality of the whole population. Next one is the sample size. So sufficient sample size is the crucial for achieving statistical power and generalizability. Okay, it's hard to pronounce this term, generalizability. Just like for example in the, you can also hear this one, Pulse Asia or other entity in which they are distributing some respondents, questionnaire or asked interview from sample size of the voters. For example, they have asked questions, who are their presidents, who will be the next presidents in our country. So instead of asking the whole population in the Philippines, they are just using or selecting sample size only that will represent the whole nation. So they have this, they can able to predict or forecast who are the possible next president. The third one is the sampling bias. It minimizes also the bias through careful selection methods and randomization. That is why we need to use the right sampling technique in our study to avoid bias. Okay, that is why there are also research environment, institution or individuals will not accept the result of our findings because sometimes they have certain areas that they are not agree with, because there are certain areas that is biased, and one of the reason for that is we use the wrong sampling technique or methods. And lastly, the fourth one is the ethical considerations. So it is important also to respect the participants' rights and ensure informed consent and confidentiality. That is why in your questionnaire, if you put a name and then blank, you need to use the word optional, because we give the respondents the rights for the confidentiality. Okay, so one also of the advantage, you will not use or put the name, they have the free to answer within their hearts and within their minds, because if you put the name of the respondents on the questionnaire, there's a big tendency that it influences their answers, because they think that the results of the questionnaire that have been given to them will be used against the respondents. So it is important that we need to have this confidentiality of our research respondents. Okay, so we are done, and for the conclusion, sampling techniques play a vital role in research, influencing the validity and reliability of the study findings. Also, by understanding the different sampling methods, you as a researchers can make informed decisions based on your research objectives, or we call it statement of the problem. And lastly, remember that the quality of your sample or sampling techniques that you're using determines the quality of your research outcomes. Therefore, you need to use the right sampling technique of your research, because it will affect the outcomes of your research. Thank you.